Good morning, everyone. There's a Negro's hymn that goes, Lord, what a morning. And I feel like it's been, Lord, what a morning when the sky begins to fall. Is the refrain. My name is Mukei. I'm one of the senior students here at the Village Zendo. And for those who are new, it's nice to see you and practice with you in person. And it's online. It's nice to see familiar and friendly faces. I wanted to start my talk off with a story. And the story goes, a young woman from another country moved with her family to live 1 year in a town near a Buddhist monastery. Over the course of the year, she discovered the monastery, and she would visit periodically and talk with the abbess. The abbess introduced her to meditation, which became very meaningful to her, for her. When the year-long stay was drawing to an end, the woman asked the abbess, "In my country there is no Buddhism, and no one has ever heard about meditation. How can I continue to learn and deepen the practice you set me on?" The abbess said, "When you return home, ask far and wide for who among the wise people is recognized as having the greatest ability to listen. Ask that person to instruct you in the art of listening. What you've learned about listening from such a person will teach you how to further your own meditation practice." Some of you may know that I'm a member of the Zen Peacemakers International. And Zen Peacemakers, over the years, has fostered and promoted bearing witness retreats. The oldest is bearing witness to Auschwitz, and most recently it's the American Indian, which is 10 years, and bearing witness to racism. And I have had the pleasure of leading 5 of those retreats down in Alabama. And the retreat is about 4 days. And for those of you who know anything about Zen Peacemakers, there are these 3 tenets about bearing witness, not knowing bearing witness, and healing action. And that's important, but there's something else, because Bernie, when he was starting these retreats, he would say the place is the teacher. And in Alabama, you get that right up close. There are specific sites, like the Legacy Museum, which is an old warehouse, which was a place where slaves were brought, tortured, and sold. There's a Legacy Memorial, which is built on the site of lynching grounds. And there are these huge columns that are suspended from different parts of the South and then some of the names are inscribed on the pillars of where soil was collected of those who were lynched. And there are a number of those pillars that are still unclaimed. So that tells you something. And then there's the tent city, when blacks were getting the right to vote and they were shareholders, they were kicked off the land. And so they lived in tents for 2.5 years with no heat or hot water. And at least 4 times during the week, there was rapid gunfire. So folks had to take turns watching. But I also think the other piece that's missing in all of this, in the bearing witness, is the place. Yeah, we can go to specific sites. I'm going to ask for another pillow. Thank you.
What kind is that?
Something really hard. Yeah. Sorry. Oh yeah, that's much better. Sorry for the interruption, but the place where the these places live is the teacher. But in my experience, there are also the people. When we were in Montgomery this year, we worked with a number of community organizers who told us about what it's like in their neighborhoods. I'm thinking about a vigil we went to where there were victims, a vigil to help people who suffered from gun violence. And sorry, I'm momentarily distracted. But there were victims who talked about gun violence. And one woman talked about her son and daughter being murdered and how she had to go to court, and she didn't have to go to court, but she went to court to ask that the murderer be exonerated. When how the murderer had to, well, it was important for her for the murderer to be exonerated. She said, I've forgiven him already for what he's done. And I think it's important that the law doesn't continue to exact any kind of revenge on him. Now the story is that this young man is now a professor. That offering of forgiveness changed his life. And there were other women in that particular vigil who talked about the mental illness they experienced, the trauma, domestic violence in their life. And what stood out to me was the resilience and the joy. And the joy that these women offered. In Selma, a person I've gotten to know in 5 years who works on the city council has made a gun-free zone to address gun violence. And we were 12 of people this go around. I was one of 3 people of color. And she took us to her home and told us vividly, about gunshots. And she says, I either have to roll out of bed and get on the couch, or I have to go in the bathtub to hide. Again, she's created this park, which is a gun-free zone. And on that particular side of that park was where a young woman's grandson was shot in a drive-by. It was the people in the place that really impacted me. And it's very easy to look at someone and give that person a narrative. That person in that place, I can tell you everything about them and I haven't even talked to them. The joy, the resilience, the creativity. There's a man by the name of Kevin King who's an artist. And he's very much empowering and engaged in empowering people who are disenfranchised and live on the margins. And there are a lot of creative people. So he created a studio, a space for artists to come and paint. And in the process of learning how to paint, they learn how to sell their art. And he provides all the materials they need. The paint, the chalks, whatever. And he says how the business has gone up in that area. And people are feeling proud of themselves. Now, if you go to that particular location, most of those homes are run down. But the sense of pride those folks feel is astonishing. We were also introduced, and we saw this last year, about how racism has impacted the infrastructure. And the woman I was telling you about, and Selma, who created the gun-free zone, we were working in a garden, and she had to go and get some water. And she pulled up a bucket, and the water was gray. She says, "I can't drink this." She says, "I have to go out of town to get water to drink." But there's the joy. There's the joy. So what is it about the place and the people in the place that impacts meditation? Well, I'd like to think that whether we're on the cushion or not, we're always interacting with the place. This place, when you leave this place, and whatever place you're going to, you're going to interact. And how you are, not present yourself, how you are, that place has an impact on you, and vice versa. We're all teachers, to quote Bernie. We're all teaching each other, and there are tons of teachers outside waiting. The crucial point that I learned from this particular retreat was that we need each other. The women who told the stories of violence and psychological problems said, "I couldn't do it alone, despite the system that kept telling me you need to be tough. You need to be tough. But I couldn't do it alone." And I think those are the things the teachers are teaching us. That what we're seeing and experiencing these days, we can't do it alone. We need each other. One of the folks that wasn't present at this particular vigil was a man by the name of Mark Miles. Mark was a community activist in Selma. And as I mentioned, the violence there was so tremendous that one night in December last year, he went to intervene between two warring gangs, and as a result, he was shot. But in his life, he was a developer of what was called healing circles, for people to come and talk about their pain. And so his legacy to the group is what I'd like to read for you. Tonight is heavy because love brought you here, and violence changed everything. Every person in this room knows the pain that does not have a great ending. A knock on the door, a phone call that stopped time, a moment when life split into before and after. You did not just lose someone, you lost who you were before that day. You lost safety, you lost peace, you lost the future you imagined with them. You lost the future you imagined with them. Some of you buried a child, some of you buried a sibling, a partner, a friend. And since that day, the world kept moving, while you learned how to breathe through a broken heart. This healing circle was created because grief from violence is different. It comes with anger, with questions that never get answered, with rage mixed with love, and love mixed with guilt. Here, you didn't have to explain why the holidays hurt, why the sound of sirens makes your heart race, why laughter can feel like a betrayal. You spoke the names that the streets tried to turn into statistics. You reminded us that they were not just victims, they were loved. They mattered and still matter. Tonight we honor you because you chose healing in a world that often pushes revenge, silence, or numbness. You choose not to let violence have the final word. The choice is not weakness, it is resistance. Some days healing looks like speaking. Some days it looks like crying. Some days it looks like just showing up and sitting in the circle without saying a word. On the days you didn't think you'd survive, you did. Your presence here is proof. Your love outlives violence. That memory is stronger than the moment they took them. And that even in loss, there's a possibility of meaning. Tonight is not about moving on. It's about carrying them forward with intention, with dignity, and with love. Thank you for trusting the circle with your grief. Thank you for choosing life when death tried to defy your story. And thank you for reminding this community that healing is an act of courage. May it be so.